Quite unfortunate. 4 police officers have now been killed in attacks by gunmen since the start of the year. 3, including a police superintendent, died from injuries sustained during an operation. In addition, the JDF soldier was also attacked. So quite a series of unfortunate events, and again, condolences to the families. And for sure, relatives and officers around the edge. We've invited Senior Communications Strategist, Jamaica Constabulary Force, Dennis Brooks, to join us for the conversation. Morning, Mr. Brooks. Welcome to Smile Jamaica.
Morning to you, Neville, Empress, and to your viewers. Thanks for joining.
Morning, Dennis.
Quite unfortunate, as we said, and also quite unfortunate. It wouldn't be the first time that we've lost officers in during the line of duty, they say. It's a tough job, but they go in knowing this, don't they?
Absolutely. It is what we sign up for when we join the Jamaica Constabulary Force. We have to deal with the best and worst of Jamaica, and it's a part of the job. And we remain undaunted. We continue to serve, and we continue to be committed to keeping Jamaicans safe.
What do you say to the officers at large when something like this happens? Obviously, you don't expect it to happen, but they're in, as I said, in the line of fire. But what do you say to the officers when something like this happens?
Well, when these things happen, there's a series of systems that trigger. And so you have the chaplaincy unit of the force, you have the welfare unit of the force, you have the commissioner very much is on the scene, and you are engaging people individually at that level because it is important to speak with them. So when a member dies in the line of duty, you don't pick up the phone and call. You go to whatever remote community that they're from, and you speak with their families, but you also speak with the people that they serve with. And I've heard the commissioner, I've heard deputy commissioners and other senior members of the constabulary and members of the rank and file. You know, it is a very painful time in the force because you all know that today might be the day that you go out and don't return to your family. But we continue to apply our training. We continue to respond because that is our job. We absolutely have to respond to these matters. And so we continue to tell the members that you have the full backing of the High Command to follow your training, to do what you were prepared to do in these situations.
Dennis, let me ask you something. I'm quite curious. If somebody assaults a police officer, murders a police officer, is the sentence tougher for them?
Well, before I would get to sentence, I would get to charge. So you would have to look at what the charges are within the legislation. And from us in the constabulary, we are enforcers of the rule of law. So we don't really, get involved with the writing or the judgment of legislation. However, as far as I understand it, there are differences in when you look at offenses against the person and you look at committing a murder and you commit a murder against a member of the state, particularly in their line of duty. So have you killed a soldier? Have you killed a policeman or a policewoman in the line of duty? Those call for different charges, and as a result call for different penalties if you are convicted of those charges. So there, naturally, one would expect that there would be different charges and different penalties, yes.
Yeah. Dennis, I really want to look at the state of mind and when we look at what's happening with the criminals. How could they feel so emboldened to target the police officers? How bad is this going to get? What do we need to do as Jamaicans, as citizens? Because we're all in this together. I mean, children are left without their parents. Just like the crimes we're seeing in the country, I think it's 900 violent people have died of violence, I think, already this year. So it's a sad state of affairs. What do we need to do from your perspective?
Well, first of all, there are people who are living every day in toxic environments, and it is very difficult for us to, to police those toxic environments, to police those environments where violence is the order of the day and people respond to various situations as their default with violence. And so while we go about doing the everyday policing, whether you want to call it hard or quote unquote soft policing, there's a range of other social solutions and interventions that need to take place to try to change things in the long run. However, people are going to feel emboldened in this society to take on the state when they feel that they have the support of the communities within which they exist. So people will feel that they can challenge the police when you have people egging them on. And we see it in the videos of people telling you not to conform with the police when you are being arrested, or don't leave him alone. And you see throngs of people surrounding the officer trying to enforce an arrest. You see it when you hear people talk about or justify then acts of violence against the police. And yes, there has been a history of challenges with the way in times gone by policing took place, but there is a transformation taking place then within the Jamaica Constabulary Force, and the change is evident. And I think that people should feel that we, as your police, helping to keep you safe, that we should be all on one side, and that the police is not the enemy, and the gunman, the don, the person who is terrorizing your community is not the hero. We need to change that narrative where we see the gunman as the enemy and the policeman as the hero, and the victim is not some nameless, faceless person that we forget about next week.
Dennis, the Prime Minister said that the killing of members of our security forces represents an attack on the Jamaican state. If I am a police officer and I enter a community, am I not going to have arms up first because you are in fear as a police officer that if you walk out peacefully, that you may be attacked upon first? Are we reached a level of war on the state? What's going to happen? There's a lot of unrest, and I am afraid of where this could go. Are the police officers feeling fear that they must have arms up first?
Well, that's a difficult one. War is a strong word. What I would say is that policemen and women across this nation must default to how they were trained and not become lax or become, overly, while they're not supposed to be overly agitated. But I would not want a policeman or a policewoman to be lax in how they execute their duties. Do what you are trained to do in serving and protecting the country. What we see is a situation in which persons, yes, they challenge the police, and by virtue of that, they challenge the state. More needs to be done in terms of bringing people on side, as I said, so that they don't feel as if these things, these enforcements of the Disaster Risk Management Act or the enforcement of the Noise Abatement Act is almost an attack against them. It cannot be this way. It cannot be that you need a team from SWAT to lock down a party now. We cannot get there. It cannot be that we're at a point where we have to be going to bring heavily armed policemen and women to protect people cleaning gullies and drains. The state has certain functions.
I have to jump in, Mr. Brooks. Sorry to jump in, but we're almost out of time.
Sure.
Just because of what you said just now, what about resources? Because you hear that the police officers don't have the big guns like the bad men, you hear about the vests that they wear. What about resources? Are we able to take on some of these people? And from what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing?
Absolutely, I believe that the policemen and women out there have resources. I mean, we could always have more. We could always be given better technology, but that's what we're doing in the constabulary right now with all the technology projects that are rolling out, with all of the resources that we are spreading out throughout the organization. Yes, there are challenges, but the Jamaica Constabulary Force remains motivated enough, resourced enough, and driven enough to take on these people. And we've seen it in the last year. Look at the wanted list, the most wanted list of 2019, and look how different it looks now, because we have either brought in or negated the effect of many of the parishes and the nation's most wanted. And so I think that through the various divisions and branches of the force, that we are doing that job to take on these people who are threatening the life and the liberty and the freedom of Jamaican people. But it is important for members of society to be switched on to the fact that this is all of our problem. This is not just a policing problem. You hear, I read an article in the paper yesterday of all the evil that this person, Bun Waste, used to do before he died. And people are only willing to talk about it after they're gone, after he's claimed the life of a member of the constabulary. What about all the people who he was terrorizing before? It is absolutely time for members of society to get switched on, to realize this is all of our problem. This is our country and we have to protect it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And please stay safe on behalf of all of us here. Could you tell your colleagues that we pray for them, and we hope that when they leave home, they go back home. Stay safe, sir, and thanks again.
Thank you, Dennis. You know, Neville, I think we need an hour every day to discuss the cost of crime, the social determinants of crime, the welfare programs, really go into it so we can look at solving it in a national discussion every single day.
Well, I've been saying this for years, that the commissioner can't stop it, the prime minister can't stop it, the police officers can't stop it.
We
All
the
of
people
us have to get together.
Yeah.
That was Dennis Brooks, by the way, communications strategist at the JCF. Coming up next, we hear from the wife of a police officer who shares with us the realities of being married to a police officer, which must be also, I don't want to use the word traumatic.
It's interesting.